Good morning, honorable adjudicators, respected opponents, and also everyone present here. Today, I, Khalila Fadila, as the Prime Minister of the proposition team, would like to support the motion stating this House prefers a world where critical resources are governed by the International Materials Agency. I will present our team's case, but before moving to the arguments, let me break down what does this motion actually mean. So by critical resources, we mean materials that are vital for the environment and the ecosystem. And in this debate, we refer to governed by the International Materials Agency as a global organization that has the aim to manage critical resources, including but not limited to oil, natural gases, or rare earth element, and additionally reduce risk of shortages or trade conflicts and encourage more sustainable and responsible ways of the utility and the extraction of these vital resources. And our team firmly believes that critical resources being governed by the International Materials Agency can create more sustainable environment. And we firmly oppose this motion. Therefore, we stand on the affirmative side. And before moving on to my points, we're focusing on the human influences on the ecosystem. And firstly, let me establish our team's main argument is that food production are having negative effects on ecosystems all over the world. And as the human population continues to increase, we are using more and more land for producing food. Most of the world's supply of food is produced by growing crops or keeping animals, although we do still harvest fish from the wild in large quantities. And during the last few hundred years, the quantity of food produced globally has greatly increased. And by that, it is important that we increase the quantity of food that we produce because the world's increasing population needs to be fed, and there are several ways that this has been achieved. Firstly, agricultural machinery such as tractors being used to cultivate a much greater of land in a much shorter time. And second, agricultural chemicals are used to help improve the growth of the crop. And for example, the use of chemical fertilizers, insecticides, and also herbicides. And thirdly, selective breeding has produced crop plants in poor soils. And fourth, monocultures, crop plants that are usually grown in large areas of a single variety. And although these things have been achieved by humans, there are consequences or disadvantages for these acts, such as first, reduction in biodiversity. In a monoculture, biodiversity is low. For example, cattle now produce much more meat and milk than they did in the past, and hence laid more eggs. And all of these as a result of selective breeding and intensive livestock production. And secondly, reduction in soil fertility. And what we mean by this is farmers sometimes grow the same crop on the same land for several years in succession. And the crop plants all need the same mineral ions. So over time, the minerals that they need are removed from the soil. Therefore, by the International Materials Agency managing these vital resources, it can definitely prevent or at least reduce these. And my second point is habitat destruction makes it difficult for. My second argument is habitat destruction makes it difficult for many species to survive in the environment. Habitats are destroyed when we use land for our own purposes excessively. And here are some examples of habitat destruction. We cut down native vegetation to make land available for growing crops, for farming livestock, and for building houses and roads and others. And secondly, we damage habitats when we mine for natural resources such as metal ores and fossil fuels. And the mine itself destroys the habitats by removing the soil and vegetation, and then after that, the toxic runoff can enter rivers or the soils in the surrounding area, which can cause habitat destruction. And thirdly, we add pollutants to land and water, which can kill the plants that normally live there and so change the habitat. And fourth, deforestation can also result in an increased amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which will cause global warming, and that global warming will cause sea levels to rise, more extreme weather events, floods, and also pollution. Therefore, by these vital resources such as rainforest, mining locations, and reserve land being managed by the global organization International Materials, International Materials Agency, it can definitely prevent these effects and prevent the monopolies that can occur because of people wanting to be corrupt and take advantages of Earth's land. And my third argument is I wanna deliberate about endangered species, and understanding why species can become endangered or extinct can help us to prevent this happening, and this can cause extinction. Therefore, by these species being managed by the International Materials Agency can reduce these extinctions from happening. For example, the Mauritian green parakeet that has said to be the most endangered bird species in the world. Only about 10 birds were known to exist, and they were threatened by introduced species such as rats and monkeys, which compete with them in their habitats. And by then, in 1973, an intensive conservation program began, and they monitored and protected the species in its natural habitat. They also used captive breeding programs, and the organization also educated local people about the importance of conservation and what they can do to help. And therefore, by these species being managed by the International Materials Agency can reduce these extinctions from happening. And in conclusion, I think that a world where critical resources are governed by the International Materials Agency creates a more sustainable environment. It can definitely prevent reduction in biodiversity, reduction in soil fertility, and it can also prevent habitat destruction from happening. It can actually prevent global warming from happening, and also it can prevent endangered species from being extinct, such as Mauritian green parakeet and or the orangutan and tigers that are endangered. And I think that a world where critical resources are governed by the International Materials Agency will create a more sustainable environment. Those are my arguments, and my second speaker will continue my arguments. Thank you so much.